Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon. In the last part, we finished off normal mode, and now it's time for us to start the other two playthroughs I'm doing for this channel. Notable, you can even tell just based off what save is selected at the start here. Despite this being the second playthrough I'm doing in Let's Play, in recording this was the third one, so if I seem like I'm a bit more aware of myself for some reason than I would be in Nightmare mode, it's because I kind of am. But I'm skipping the cutscene there because to do what I'm doing for this playthrough, I need to start as we did back at the start of part 1. But I should know right now, the main differences for the second and third playthroughs are going to be that there's a lot more jump cutting. Because a lot of the stage terrain is unchanged, just that we're going through it with either Zangetsu alone or only the other three characters in the case of Nightmare mode, I'm going to be jump cutting past a lot of the stage designs because ultimately it's stuff we've seen before. If I take a new pathway or need to show a new strategy for something, I will show that. But ultimately, you could do this in any way, really. Especially cutting past a lot of stage 1 because ultimately it's the exact same thing you needed to do back in the beginning of part 1, even down to the boss fight being the same, hence why I'm fast forwarding it. The first big branch happens upon the boss's defeat, back where we recruited Miriam back in part 1. So let's just get your little last stand attack out of the way, blah 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 blah, giant fireball, and now let's actually get to what's different. Back in part 1, I mentioned you could obviously talk to Miriam to recruit her. You could just outright walk past her to ignore her, or you could do what we're about to do here. Mind you, there's only really about 3 things you could potentially think of doing anyway, and your third guess is probably correct. Stab, 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 sorry. A new soul art has stirred within you. For killing each of your other party members, you gain a new ability for Zangetsu. For instance, for this, we get Crescent Moon, a mid-air slash. There's some pretty good coverage. Something I should note, though, due to how I recorded this LP. If you kill Miriam there on your first run and you come to stage 2, there will be a giant sign there saying, yo, you probably shouldn't do that. You can use the Curse of the Moon options on the pause menu to revert back in time, which is something you can do that I didn't mention before. If you pause the game, there's a Curse of the Moon option that allows you to return to a previous stage, albeit you'll lose the progress you made in this one, including any upgrades or recruitings. And this is what the main scheme is going to look like for a lot of these stages. I showed the first screen of the stage just to potentially show off the new ability we got. Then I cut to whatever the next branch path is that I need to take. For instance, back in part 1 when we came here to stage 2, I jumped over that wall in the previous screen with Miriam, but now I need to take the low path, which takes us on a very, 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 very roundabout pathway. But it has a completely unique graphic within it, which I find very interesting. Something I've only briefly talked about before this LP and showed on both file selects at the start of both these playthroughs so far is that the game's difficulty is a bit odd, and that technically speaking the difficulties for the game are the 3 main playstyles: normal, ultimate, and nightmare. Ultimate being essentially what I'm doing here, just that you start with all the abilities you get from killing the partners. The actual playstyle difficulties are casual and veteran. Veteran's what you've been seeing here, and casual is, well, I think the best way to put it is, the best way to show the difference between the difficulty is to describe what casual does. It removes any knockback from my memory, so you don't get knocked back from getting hit. You have infinite lives. You generally take less damage. Ammo potions give you more for their value. I forget the exact numbers, but I know they do. And health drops are even more common. I will say, for one of the 6 endings of the game, it's very best to go for it on casual, and that is Zangetsu Solo Pure, where you just walk past every partner as Zangetsu and don't even acknowledge their existence. That means you're going through the entire game, all 8 stages, with bare Zangetsu, and I have never done that in full, at least. I got to about stage 7 before losing interest. And here we see the unfortunate thing about this particular playstyle. Even if you have maxed out abilities in any given sub-weapon, due to Zangetsu's limited movement, especially prior to this stage, there are a lot of upgrades in the game you just can't get with him. You are only able to get 4 of the 8. 1 weapon up, 1 heart up, the gauntlet, and the armor. Which means this playthrough in general is quite a bit harder. Though that does bring up the point of, technically speaking, what I'm playing here is the starter version of this particular playstyle. As I mentioned before, you can also unlock Ultimate Mode for beating the game like this, which is this difficulty, only it comes with the little odds and ends that Nightmare Mode does in terms of boss fight changes, because the patterns do change slightly on that difficulty. And while that is technically the more authentic playstyle for this, I feel like watching the learning process of getting these abilities is more interesting ultimately. That's an unintentional pun. Also, I still hate dodging Focalor's Desperation Attack. That is such precise timing. With that said, for beating him and killing Alfred, we get what is probably the most useful ability out of the 3. Because unlike the Midnight Slash, or whatever, which is just a midair slash, and the third one, which is just more of a speed upgrade, for killing Alfred, I forget exactly what the game calls it, but we get a double jump. Let's see, it's Blood Moon. Just jump the button again there, and you get a double jump. For height reasons, this is already really good, because it allows you to skip certain portions of level design, because I think you even jump higher than Miriam with her high jump anyway. But it's also really good if you're getting a horizontal distance, especially after this stage. With that said, though, if you're doing one of the other 3 endings in the game, one of them requires you to kill at least 1 member, but not all of them. I would recommend killing Alfred just for this double jump, because I think the way it works with gaining abilities is that each character gives you the set 1. I don't think it stacks. I.e., if you didn't kill Miriam but killed Alfred, I think you still get double jump and not the Midnight Slash. But that is the way I'd recommend going about it, just because while, yes, Alfred in that playthrough would be more useful for the boss fights, between Gebel and Miriam, your mobility options are just overall better for you, and thus making the stages easier, which, even though the bosses in this game are great, the stages are the bigger threats on certain playstyles. And here we see that not having any other characters for this stage really makes you take a radically different pathway. In fact, between every playthrough of the game for this LP, Stage 3 is easily the one where the routes can change the most between what characters you have. Hell, when it comes to Nightmare Mode, in a couple of parts, by the way, if you die as Zangetsu, you just outright lose an extra life. It's because you only have 1 character, making this arguably the closest to mainline Castlevania games and even Ninja Gaiden in how the life system is done. Where was it? Yeah, even on Nightmare Mode, like, the route we take in this stage changes completely because you'll actually have the ability to have Gebel for this stage. That's probably one of the weirder hidden items in the game for me. There's a couple of items hidden down corners like that. There's also one, I think, in Stage 5, just like it. I don't know why, I just find how that's hidden very bizarre. Now, the interesting thing about Stage 3 for this particular playstyle, though, is obviously you might remember where the upgrade is in this stage. It's towards the end of it, and you just need to jump into it or slide into it with Miriam, so on and so forth. Zangetsu alone can get it, but it's a very, very dangerous game with it. As we'll see in a moment, if you miss time what you have to do for it, you will fall in a bottomless pit and you will die. What you're going to need to do for it when we get there is, instead of jumping and trying to land on the platform, you need to use the fact that when you jump from the bottom of a platform, or through a bottom of the platform, you do clip on top of it to grab the heart, the life up. The best way I can describe the timing for it is jump left, and right when you're just like below and to the left of the heart, double jump in the opposite direction, and then you should hopefully grab it as well as stay completely safe. Again, if you mistime it, this is kind of a lethal trick. This scares me. I'm ready! I wasn't ready. That time it was, though. You can just barely grab that, but again, just given that you only have one health bar, every little bit of upgrade counts, so it might as well. With that said, we're coming up to Valack, though, who, partially due to the abilities we've gotten at this point, is probably the least changed out of all of the boss fights, barring the obvious Stage 1 Glutton Train, just because nothing is different in that fight, just due to the point of the game it's at. Still drags in the stuff, the coins that it tries to crush you with, so on and so forth. The biggest change here is how much time you have to attack him, because even though the double jump does allow you to jump twice, yes, the second jump is more so used for minor boosts and horizontal distance. It's not good at all for gaining extra height. The best comparison I can make for it is Sonic Colors, actually. The double jump in that game is worthless for actual vertical distance, but for horizontal movement, it's great. Also, yeah, there's proof of concept. With the double jump, you can jump at least 4 tiles high, I think, whereas Miriam's normal jump can only, I think, go up to 3.5 or so. With that said, time for us to get our final ability by killing Gebel. This is about to be my least favorite ability in the game for Zangetsu, honestly. Because what we get is something that is fine in concept, but it could have been done better. We get a dash button. Either by double tapping forward or pressing B, you run a little bit faster. If you use this in tandem with the jump slash or the double jump, you can get some great distance, don't get me wrong. But I feel like it could have been a little more. The best way I can describe what I hoped it would have been is the Mega Man X game's air dash, actually. Say if you press the B button, you would go forward a certain amount, like a set distance, but then you would have some increased running speed for maybe a second, second and a half, something like that. And if, say you did it in mid-air, you would also still dash that same distance. Because that would have made going over, like, that little pit there very easy to do with Zangetsu, making for some potentially more interesting routing. But at the same time, though, I do admit that having a mid-air dash could potentially be broken in a game like this. It's more so how my brain works for this kind of playstyle versus how others does. Some people probably find the dash to be the best ability in the game, particularly speedrunners probably. But for my tastes, it could have been a little better. Actually, now I think about it, I've never looked at the speedrun leaderboards for this game. Let's see what that's looking like. Speedrun.com. While that loads up. Stage 4, again, another radically changed route, depending on what characters you have or not. It's only really the mid-game where the routes are drastically different, just due to the amount of characters you would have at this point compared to then. And even then, Zangetsu's abilities in tandem do allow him to take some pretty notable shortcuts in these stages that you couldn't if you didn't have them. But, yeah. Alright, here we are. Curse of the Moon leaderboards. Any percent? Normal mode veteran is 24 minutes, 48 seconds. Casual, 26. Longer on casual, huh? Nightmare veteran is 20 minutes, 26. Casual is 21:15. Ultimate, 22:39 on casual. 22:16 on veteran. You know, I'm kind of surprised. For the standard 80%, those are all pretty close times for such drastically different playstyles. Mind you, I guess speedrunners know what they're doing. Even then, I'm seeing there is a no out of bounds category, which means there's probably a good amount of stuff they can do. Yeah, like normal veteran with no out of bounds is 27 minutes compared to 24. So that's at least 3 minutes of contents that they're just completely bypassing. This isn't too surprising for me. Low percent. Oh, you know what? Low percent is probably not getting any of the upgrades. Either way, it's time for Valack, who is probably the hardest boss with Zangetsu alone, just due to the outright range he has compared to you. Because the fire breath attack in particular means that you're going to be probably switching between altitudes pretty quickly. My main strategy for this is to just say, screw that, I'm going to use the Ashura ability and just hope I kill it before it kills me. Oh, actually, no, here it is. Low percent is Zangetsu only. No recruiting, no sacrificing, no upgrades, sub-weapons allowed, only done on normal. So that's technically the hardest run of the game that you can do for one of these 6 endings, actually. I'll talk more in detail about what the 3 endings I'm not getting are next part, just because I feel like the credit sequence for this particular playthrough is the best time to go over that. But that run sucks. The cool thing about this fight, though, is that it gets to really highlight something I really like about the mid-air slash ability we get from killing Miriam. And that's that if you time your slash correctly and depending on the size of the enemy, you can hit one enemy twice with one swing due to the fact I think you technically leave and re-enter their hitbox or something like that. So if you can position yourself carefully, that's a very useful technique to use. And that's the end of stage 4. That fight sucks a lot. In fact, one thing I will say, and you probably may have seen it there, keep an eye on my life counter throughout this particular playthrough. You'll probably see it jump around a couple times just because I am editing out a couple of deaths, to put it lightly. And another good judge of that is actually the score counter, because in the case I get another extra life just from score, you'll see just how much I probably died. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 5, we're gonna go finish off this playthrough, actually. Like I said, these are abridged, technically. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys then.